To sit on the hot spot, mate. Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. So I've selected 10 players only this week. And it'll be cool if you get 10 out of 10, but we'll see how well you go.
Okay.
Well, good luck, mate.
Thank you.
First player.
Stuart Downing?
That's correct, mate.
Downing. Now, he had a peg on him, didn't he? I mean, with that, wasn't he called into the England squad a few times as well? Under
He was.
Capello?
He sort of had that sort of David Bentley sort of feel about him, but never
Yeah,
quite as good.
that's right. I remember even, again, back on Football Manager days, when he wasn't around for the England squad, that I kept calling him up because I wanted a set piece for it. So, yeah, good
And
memories
I
of
was
Stuart
going to say
Downing.
the same, mate. He was someone that I would have and be that sort of call up back in the day because he wasn't a bad player, but he had 35 caps, remember, for England, which is much more than I ever recall him having. But he was consistent in that England squad at the time. He went on and played for Liverpool, didn't do quite so well there, went on to West Ham, went back to Middlesbrough and done quite well. So he had an okay career considering he had 597 league games, so pretty solid in all fairness. 722 games in total. Not a bad player in his career in reality.
No, absolutely not. What's he doing now, I wonder? He's not in
That'd be
coaching, is he?
not that I'm aware of, mate. So again, it's one of those questions where what are these players doing after they retire, which I think is always a interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see where maybe he's got a coffee shop somewhere.
Possibly, mate, in Middlesbrough, unfortunately for him, probably.
Yeah, taking inspiration from Viduka, though.
That's it, mate. Okay, next one.
Oh, it's. I think it's on different. Mm. Mate, why did I think it began with P?
No P in there, mate. No P.
No P. Can you give me first letter of what it begins with?
Yeah, of
Or is
course,
that
mate.
cheating?
Starts with M. He was part of that
Melchior.
Wigan squad. Yes, Mario Melchior. Part of that Wigan squad with Zaki and um, Mario Melchior and Antonio Valencia and Victor Moses. So a good squad what that we saw. So I always liked Mario Melchior. He had a pretty cool name, so I tended to assign him on Foot Manager quite a few times.
You and me both, but maybe I'm Melchior. I mean, I remember him more, obviously, when you said Wigan, yeah. But I always remembered his Chelsea days more than his Wigan days, even
Oh,
though there was
interesting that.
Wigan, you know.
Interesting that, mate. Okay, next one.
Oh, was he Brazilian?
He was. You're on the right lines.
Oh, I used to love him, I think, as a player because he was an absolute baller. And he had a good shot on him, didn't he?
That's right, mate. He did indeed.
Elano?
Elano is correct, mate. What a great throwback and certainly recollection of him. Good player. Came in, well, was part of that City squad before it all changed when they had the Saudis invest, and again, someone had a bit of an underrated career as a result. But good player. Yeah, good throwback.
Wasn't Elano part of City's side that when Sven was in charge of City as well?
He was one of the clinical players at City under Sven and had a good time under him and really prospered. Just it didn't work out when that ownership changed, and he was one of the first players to go, unfortunately, and didn't fit Mark Hughes' plans.
Hmm. Mind you, when you think of it, when they've had, if you go through for stages here, so they've had Alano, then they've gone from Alano to David Silva, then they've gone from David Silva to like De Bruyne. I mean, they've got an eye for pretty talented, creative players, haven't they, City, really?
And what a sort of succession as well for these players, which City have signed over the years. It's just that you might consider yourself very unfortunate that you weren't the sort of KDB of the modern era where you could have been a lot more successful than you had been. So some of the tough parts of football, I suppose, at times, but still had part of that Saudi sort of story which he can lay claim to.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the next player, Jord, also sat in that City squad.
Oh, I recognise him. So same time. He was Brazilian as well, weren't he?
English.
Oh, first person that was coming to my mind was Robinho.
Ooh, close, but not Rubino.
Is he a pundit now?
He is for City, yes.
Nader Manua?
That's right, mate. Great collection. Great
Yeah.
collection. Very underrated, forgotten player who never really reached the stars, but sort of goes under the radar. And he was one of the first players I thought of when you suggested this activity of forgotten players. He fits right into the top category of that for me.
Yeah, he's wow, I forgot that. Again, I don't really remember him of City days, but I remember him when he was part of the QPR side when they had a lot of money.
That's right, mate. And they went out and they signed quite a few different players, Sean Wright Phillips, Rio Ferdinand, and they just spent a lot of money very quickly and had a lot of players under Harry Redknapp. And that was an interesting time for QPR.
Quite a solid centre half though in his day, weren't he?
He wasn't too bad, mate. He wasn't too bad. It was just a shame his career never worked out. And again, he was part of that Saudi takeover and his career moved on and it just never really worked out for him.
Did he get any England caps?
I'd have to double check that right now.
Because I can't
I don't
recall
think
him
he
getting
did.
an England cap. No.
I think no, he only played for the youth teams, and then he went out and played in America for a couple of years, and he's been retired ever since. So he's been retired 4 years, retired at 33. He works for City in content and doing punditry. So bit of a shame, really. And I think he was also linked with being called up to Nigeria, and that never materialised. So someone who had again a bit of a misfortune in his career, but one where you can look back and played 427 games overall, played in the European Championships for England, won the playoffs with QPR, played for City, part of that Saudi sort of takeover, now works for City. So not a bad career.
No, but isn't it crazy that you've had 427 appearances in your club career and you don't get a cap for your country?
At least one, I know, considering some of the players we have capped for England, mind.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Next one.
Oh, again, he looks very familiar. Now, that was a legendary kit of Newcastle's.
I loved that one. I loved it, mate.
Was he a left back?
He was a striker.
Striker? I was thinking of Jose Enrique to start with. It's definitely not him then.
No, not Jose Enrique.
Oh, striker. I think I do recognise him, but I'll have to pass.
Oh, interesting that, mate. I remember him more from his Cardiff City days. Michael Shopra.
I'll see myself out. Well, yeah, Cardiff days at Michael Chopper, yeah, because he was at Sunderland as well, wasn't he?
That's right, mate. I always remember him doing the one where he scored a goal and took his boot off and had some kind of celebration. But yes, Michael Shopra, definitely remember him from his Cardiff days, mate.
Yeah, he scored quite a few goals for Cardiff as well, didn't he? If I remember
Not a
right.
bad career. He was in great form when he played for Cardiff.
Yeah, but then, so if he was at Sunderland, wasn't he at Middlesbrough as well? Or
I
am I
believe so. That
imagining
was one of his clubs. Yeah, he was around a few different clubs. So, yeah, he was not a bad player, Michael Shopra.
that? Cool. Can you imagine being on that pitch if he was playing for one of them three clubs and then you knew, well, as a supporter, you knew you played for one of your other clubs that was a rival?
I know, mate. It doesn't tend to go down quite well in your career when those sort of things happen. Just having a quick look at his career, he actually never played for Middlesbrough, quite surprisingly. He
Oh,
played for Newcastle, Watford, Nottingham Forest, Barnsley, Cardiff, Sunderland. Went back to Cardiff twice, then signed for them permanently. Played for Ipswich, Blackpool, went out to Kerala Blasters, went to Alloa Athletic, the Kerala Blasters, and then signed for West Allotment Celtic, which actually play their home games near Newcastle and quite far down on the pyramid. Yeah, never played for Middlesbrough, which I actually thought he did. We must be recalling someone else in that.
yeah. Hmm. That's an interesting career as well, from where it started to where it ended.
Absolutely, mate. Played for England under 16s, 17s, 19s, and 20s. So, again, as someone who never just picked up a cap, which is a little bit of a shame because, you might have done okay for us. But sort of when you look at our strikers and you look at Crouches, your Defoes, your Bench, your Wayne Rooney's, and the other strikers we had in that long list, I think it was always going to be very difficult for him to try and secure one of those caps. So, perhaps never considered and maybe in the right reasons, but we will never know. Next player.
Shay Given.
I knew this would be a straightforward, easy one for you, mate. Part of that Newcastle squad, part of someone who went into City and got replaced because of Roberto Mancini coming in. Didn't impress Roberto Mancini, and therefore Joe Hart got recalled. And that's how Joe Hart came to be number one. But not a bad keeper, Shay Given. Should never have left Newcastle, in my opinion. But when you're being offered big money to go and compete for perhaps Premier League, top European football, when the Saudis came in back then, you're not going to say no back in that time period.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I've really liked Shay Given as a keeper. He was
Mm.
one of my favourite keepers of that era, if you like, in the Premiership when he was at
He sort of
Newcastle. That is.
he sort of sits in that era of keeper where I recall a young Scott Carson being out on loan to Aston Villa, and you have Brad Friedel playing for Blackburn Rovers in that
Mhm.
iconic kit. Edwin van der Sar, Petr Cech, Jens Lehmann, and Almunia, and
Yeah.
those sort of goalkeepers being around and
Paul
just.
Robinson as well, wasn't there?
Oh yes, Paul Robinson for Blackburn and Spurs when he was out there, and that goal he scored from his own net. I very mixed views on Paul Robinson, the keeper. I thought he was okay, but in realistic terms, a lot of people said he was tragically bad. But he was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't consistent enough, I think.
Mm.
That's what frustrated me as a young Spurs fan then. But it was quite a, as you say, when he scored that goal over Ben Foster, when Ben Foster was looking to get the England team around then.
Mm. That's it, mate. Next one.
Goalkeeper again.
That's right. Yeah. Someone who went on to have a very underrated career, being part of our very long list of players, which we accumulated and went out on multiple loans and slowed down his career. And it was a big shame for him, realistically. And his career never really got going.
Ross Turnbull.
Correct, mate. Correct. Only played 148 games in his career. He signed for Chelsea in 2009, was there for 4 years, and only played a total of 7 games within a 4-year period, leaving Middlesbrough, where he had done okay and went out on for multiple loans, but played for England under 16s to 19s and just perhaps a very underrated career. But when you look at the players where he shared some time at Chelsea, they're sort of good experiences you can never really replicate and he can sort of be proud of despite the lack of games in his career.
But yeah, 148 games in his career.
A very, very low amount. That's just league games mind in terms of what he played, but total 174, which is
That's
very, very
still,
little.
that is very, very little for someone of his potential that he had. Yeah, wow.
Well, he had a 13-year professional career. So, if you look at the averages of 174 games divided by 13, the outcome on that is very, very low. And it's such a shame when you see these sort of players have that kind of career because over 13 years professional football, he averaged only 13 games per year. And then you look at that percentage wise out of the available games, it's a very sad sort of career which he had. and a great shame he didn't have more games.
Yeah, totally agree.
Next one, George.
Oh my god! Again, I recognise him. Newcastle keeper. Was he back up to Shay Given
He was.
by any chance? Now then, cast. Going into a trance of mindfulness for a second. Oh my god! Was he English?
He was, yes, English.
Did he make any caps for England?
Never played for England.
Would you have said he could play for England though? If he
I think you would have done okay as maybe a rotation keeper for us. Surprised he never even got a cap in a friendly, considering we had Paul Robinson, Calamity James back then. We had Scott Carson coming in and out the squad. We had a young Ben Foster. We had a young Rob Green, and the type of keepers that we had. I'm surprised he never at least got one cap.
ooh. I know I'm going to kick myself. I'm sure. Pass.
Steve Harper.
Yes.
Steve Harper, mate. Had 157 games in 20 years for Newcastle, which is, again, very, very low. 237 games in his career. He went out on multiple loans up until 2011, where then he went on and played for Hull City for 2 years before signing for Sunderland and then retiring. Again, another very underappreciated, a very sort of forgotten player who had some games within the Premier League and had a good run at one point for Newcastle and got replaced by Shay Given. But I always remember him being on FIFA back in the day, and always being part of that Newcastle squad when we will pick teams to manage, for example. But 2006 was when he got 25 games in the league, 21 a year after, 16. Then he had a year in the Championship playing 45, came back to Premier League, played 18, and then he dropped for a year with nothing. Then he played 9 games, and it just wasn't a great sort of time. He went up and then sort of went down on his statistics for Newcastle, which is a shame.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just trying to think because I can't remember what year it was, mind, but I remember that I went to a Spurs game with my granddad at the old White Hart Lane, and it was either Shay Given or Steve Harper was in goal,
Mm.
and they just had a blinding game. They frustrated us all game because they made good saves for us. Oh.
We'll have to work out which keeper that was, whether it was Given or Harper, mate.
Yeah, I'll let you know next week
Definitely,
because I've
mate.
got
Well, I
the
look forward
program
to that.
somewhere. I think.
I was just about to say to you that might be a good thing to go and look at, whether you've got one laying about somewhere. So interesting, mate. I look forward to hearing that one.
Football programs. That's another topic for another week.
Oh, mate, I had so many at one point. I actually had to sell multiple programs a couple of years ago because I was literally just like, when I am even going to read some of these? But yes,
Yeah,
definitely interesting. We'll have to do that as well at some point. You pick out a selection of some of your favorite programs, and I'll see whether I've kept a few which have had some sentiment to me. Okay,
sounds
number
good.
9.
Again, I recognise him. Was he French?
I believe he had French descent, yes, but never played for France. You went on and played for an African country.
Julian Faber?
No, mate. Good shout, but no.
And that's probably why I recognise him because of being in a West Ham shirt.
Hmm.
It's like he's sort of celebrating that I'm not getting his name. Ah, jeez almighty. Are you able to give me a clue?
He was recently employed by Fulham as an assistant manager, and he's not long left to become a senior national team manager.
Lewis. It'll come to me. It's a double name, wasn't it?
That's right, man. Yeah,
Part of Marco Silva's coaching team.
that's right. Yeah,
Lewis Beaumorte.
that's right, mate. Yes, good. And then on to our final one.
Titus Bramble.
Titus Bramble. What a player. What a name. Part of that Wigan squad as well.
I remember, again, every time I used to play Football Manager, if I was, say, doing a Wigan or Sunderland, he always used to get like a 6.2 rating or something like that.
Bang average, mate. Bang average.
Yeah, but didn't he get booked a lot as well and everything like that, I think, didn't he?
Yes, I believe so. Part of that squad, which had a very up and down time, but one of the average players of the Premier League as such. But will always stand out in some capacity to some people like us because of his either bad performances on Football Manager, picking up many cards in real life, or just having a pretty cool name, I suppose. Titus Bramble.
Yeah. Bramble pie.
Bramble pie, mate. But
Yeah.
mate, you've done well on that activity. Only a couple which you didn't get, but solid shouts and a throwback to sort of 2008, 2009, 2010, around that sort of era of footballer. And it's very interesting when you start looking at different names and squads. Even you start recording yourself. Oh my gosh, how did I forget all about this player? And even got to a point where I'm going to have to start considering going up in the attic and getting out some old match attacks folders that I've got up there and start rekindling some of my thoughts around it, mate. But well done, good round, very good introduction of football knowledge by Jordan. You should always host a quiz soon, and I'll have to get someone to come up against you where I've got some thoughts about that, which I'm going to catch up with you soon about. I just need to secure the other guest who is coming on, but some very exciting times ahead, mate. But this is the 6th episode of season 2, so we're in a good place with it. And there's definitely been some times to keep on top of, to keep considering. Right now, Arsenal leading PSG 2-0, Barcelona 3-0 up. Dortmund are 5-1 up at Celtic, which is now a great shame since seeing that. Inter are 1-0 up, Leverkusen now with AC Milan. PSV 1-0 Sporting, and City are 2-0 up. Newcastle are 1-0 up against Wimbledon in the Cup. And just to touch upon some other scores, Burnley are beating Plymouth 1-0. Blackburn are 2-0 down to Coventry. Sunderland are 1-0 against Derby. Middlesbrough West Brom 0-0. Birmingham Huddersfield 0-0. Charlton, we're losing 1-0 to Bristol Rovers. They've dropped some form recently, Charlton, which is a great shame to sort of see. Mansfield 1-0 Crawley. Wrexham are 1-0 down to Stevenage. Wigan are 2-0 up against Peterborough. Cheltenham are 1-0 down to Accrington. And Newport are winning 2-0, whilst Tranmere and Swindon are drawing 1-1. So a very mixed array of results, and Newport are beating Salford, where I always take some little bit of interest in Salford just because of their ownership and who is in charge over there. But mate, some good results up and down the table. The amount that I have little gold stars next to because I've had the monitor of the games going on. But mate, a solid episode, and I appreciate your time as always.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luke. I enjoyed that in segment 2. Enjoyed the pod with you. Always great spending time with you and talking about something that we love so much.
Always, mate. Absolutely. Well, that is episode 6 of season 2.
But yeah, we try to be that group that can help be there for the players as a 3, because I think you mentioned earlier, you want to have different characters in the changing room. You want to have different personalities. You don't want the same kind of people because you're not going to be able to move forward. If you've got 10 people and they all agree the same things, you're going to get to a point in time where actually you're going to become unstuck. You need that one person to actually be like, nah, I don't agree with that. or actually we should try this. And I think that's why the huddle works, is we're all quite different as human beings. And I think you need 3 different people in there, because some players will naturally gravitate towards me and my personality, but equally some might go to the other 2, and that's absolutely fine.